All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking Dr. Peter Attia's incredible strategy for longevity straight from his book, Outlive. And look, this isn't just about adding more years to your life. The real goal here is to add more life to those years. So let's get into it.
So, Attia kicks things off with this brilliant analogy. He says most of us treat our health kind of like we treat car trouble. You know how it is, right? We just keep driving, maybe ignore a few strange noises here and there, and then boom, the engine light flashes. Only then do we panic and rush to the mechanic, just hoping for a quick fix. It's a perfect picture of how our healthcare system often works, but man, it is a terrible, terrible strategy for a long and healthy life. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to talk about why the old way is so broken. Then, we'll build a whole new strategy for health. We'll get into training for what Attia calls the game of life, fueling your body, and then cover the foundations that everyone forgets about. And at the end, we'll wrap it all up into your own longevity game plan.
All right, let's jump into our first section. The old way is broken. This is all about shifting from reactive care to a proactive strategy. You see, the whole problem is that our current system is built around reaction. It's designed to wait for the breakdown before it ever steps in. And here's the thing, the problem isn't the fast stuff. Modern medicine is absolutely incredible at handling emergencies. Things like a heart attack, a serious infection, a bad accident. It's the slow problems where things fall apart. We're talking about the chronic diseases that just silently build up for decades, long before you ever get a diagnosis. This really gets to the heart of the mindset shift. Attia calls the old way medicine 2.0. It's reactive, it's crisis-driven, it treats the event itself. What we need is medicine 3.0. This is proactive, it's strategic, and it treats the risk of the event, sometimes decades before it would happen. It's about finally playing offense with your health instead of just waiting around to play defense. Okay, so if we're going to build a new strategy for health, we have to start by identifying the real enemy. If you're going to be strategic, you've got to know exactly what you're up against, right? And here they are. Attia has this powerful name for them, the Four Horsemen. We're talking heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and all the metabolic issues that go with it, and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. These four categories, they account for the vast majority of deaths out there. They are the primary targets. And this is so important. These are not just old age problems. That's a huge misconception. The truth is, these are long, slow processes. The foundation for these diseases is often laid when we're in our 30s, 40s, even 50s. By the time a doctor finally gives you a diagnosis, that disease has been developing silently for years, maybe even decades. So, how do we fight back? What's the number one weapon in our arsenal against those four horsemen? Well, this section is all about it. Training for the game of life. Because it turns out exercise isn't just a good idea, it is the absolute cornerstone of this entire strategy. Just let this quote sink in for a second. Being unfit is a bigger mortality risk than smoking. Wow. That's not just some motivational poster slogan, That is a cold, hard, data-driven fact from the research. Having poor cardiorespiratory fitness is one of the single biggest predictors of an early death, period. Kind of changes how you feel about skipping that next workout, doesn't it? So to give us a powerful why for our training, Attia introduces this incredible concept, the centenarian decathlon. The whole idea is to think about the 10 physical things you want to be able to do in your last decade of life. It completely reframes exercise. You're not just training for today, you're training for those future events. So you have to ask yourself, what do I want to be able to do when I'm 90 or even 100? And look, we're not talking about running a marathon or lifting a car here. The events in your centenarian decathlon are the things that make up a vibrant, awesome, independent life. Things like being able to carry your own groceries up the stairs, or getting up off the floor without anyone's help, or hoisting a suitcase into the overhead bin, picking up a grandkid. Your workout today, that's just practice for these events. Okay, so how do we actually train for this? Well, the strategy is broken down into 4 key parts. You've got to work on your aerobic base. That's your endurance. You need to train for peak fitness, which is your VO2 max. You absolutely need strength. And finally, you need stability and balance. You need all 4. Let's just focus on the first 2 for a second. Building your cardio engine. Zone 2 training is all about building that base. It's that moderate intensity stuff that improves how your mitochondria, your little cellular power plants, work. Think of it as making your engine way more efficient. Then you have VO2 max training. That's the really high intensity stuff that raises the absolute ceiling of what your engine can do. You can't just do one, you really need both to be truly fit. All right, let's move on. Because, let's be honest, you can't out-train a bad diet. It's time to talk about fueling your longevity. The key here is to think about nutrition as a strategy, not an ideology. This isn't about joining some kind of food cult. So instead of getting sucked into the endless diet wars, keto versus vegan, all that stuff, the focus is on a few core principles. First, prioritizing protein is non-negotiable. We'll get to why in a sec. Next, choosing your fats wisely and seriously cutting back on ultra-processed foods. And finally, using a tool like fasting, but using it strategically, with a purpose, not just because it's the latest trend. And that brings us to this idea. Your muscle is your metabolic armor. This is exactly why protein is so critical. Muscle is not just for looking good at the beach. It is a vital organ for your metabolic health. It's what helps you manage your blood sugar, it's your reserve tank of strength, and it's what protects you from becoming frail as you get older. Seriously, maintaining muscle is a core part of the longevity game plan. Okay, now we're diving into the forgotten foundations. These are the things that, deep down, we all know are important, but we just consistently let them slide. I'm talking about the power of sleep and emotional health. These are not optional extras. They are fundamental inputs to your physical health. You have to protect your sleep. Think of it as your body's nightly maintenance crew. It's that essential. I mean, poor sleep is linked to pretty much every single chronic disease we've talked about. And the fix is, they aren't that complicated, but they are so powerful. Aim for consistency. Keep your room cool and dark. Watch the bright lights at night. Be smart about caffeine and alcohol. If you start treating your sleep with the same respect you give your workouts, it is a massive lever for your health. And this is every bit as important. Your emotional health is not some nice to have. It is a core input into your health trajectory. Your mental state literally impacts your body's physiology through things like stress hormones. And it directly influences whether you have the energy to do the other stuff, like exercising and eating well. So investing in your emotional well-being and your relationships, it's just as critical as any workout. Okay, we've gone through a lot. The why, the what. So for this last section, let's tie it all together. Let's build your longevity game plan. And here it is, the whole thing in 5 simple steps. Number 1, think long-term. Shift your focus from next week to the next decade. 2, make exercise the absolute cornerstone of your life. 3, fuel your body with smart nutrition. 4, protect your sleep like it's a performance-enhancing drug. And 5, invest in your emotional health and your relationships. That's the whole game plan. Which brings us right back to where we started. The ultimate message here is to stop waiting for that engine light to come on. The call to action is to completely reject that old, reactive model of just waiting for something to break. It's about you taking ownership, you becoming the driver of your own health, instead of just being a passenger waiting for bad news. And this is really the most important takeaway of all: longevity. It isn't just about hitting the number 100. It's about earning the right to actually enjoy the years you get. It's about having the physical strength, the cognitive sharpness, and the emotional well-being to live a full, vibrant, incredible life, right into your final decades. That's what this is all about.